U.S., 4 black women and girls are killed every day. You actually heard me right there. I said every day. This is obviously a crisis, but oftentimes it doesn't get the attention it deserves.
This is Remy Lee, a 31-year-old mother of 2, 8 months pregnant with her 3rd child, a woman whose life would take a horrifying turn that no one could have predicted. Stalked, ambushed, and left to die. What's even more shocking is that moments before she took her last breath, Remy would name her killer. On the evening of March 23, 2023, emergency responders rushed to the scene after receiving multiple 911 calls about a shooting outside an apartment complex in Paterson. When officers arrived, they found Remy barely clinging to life, shot multiple times and lying in a parking lot. Her body struggled to stay alive, but her spirit was unwavering. In excruciating pain, Remy still managed to speak, identifying her attacker. Just moments earlier, Remy had returned from a routine doctor's appointment, completely unaware that she might never live to see her unborn child. But the horror didn't end there. As police scoured the scene, they uncovered a horrifying truth. The attack had been meticulously planned. Her killer had waited for over an hour, hidden in his car, patiently biding his time before ambushing her in broad daylight. But what made this crime even more disturbing was the motive, a motive that ran deeper and darker than anyone could have imagined. But before that, let me take you back to the city where it all started. This story takes us to Paterson, New Jersey, a city steeped in history and known for its vibrant community. Paterson, the largest city in Passaic County, is famously referred to as the Silk City due to its dominant role in silk production during the late 19th century. But behind its rich history and scenic streets lies a story of a mother whose life was tragically cut short. 31-year-old Remy Lee was a devoted mother, full of life and love. Remy was expecting her 3rd child at the time of the tragedy, a baby girl she had been eagerly preparing for. She was a loving and dedicated mother to her 2 young children. They were the center of her world. Her love for her children was boundless. She always worked hard to make sure they were cared for and surrounded by love. Known for her intelligence, beauty, and kind-hearted nature, Remy had a radiant personality that lit up every room she entered. She had a smile that could brighten even the darkest days, and her infectious laughter was a constant reminder of her vibrant spirit.
Girl, you good? Yes.
Which one you want? That one? I'll get it. Anaya. Debo, I'll get it.
She was a go-getter, someone who faced life with resilience and optimism, and she carried that energy into her role as a mother. Remy had big dreams for her family. Her ultimate goal was to create a better life for her children, one filled with opportunities and happiness. She spent her days making sure they had everything they needed and showered them with unconditional love. Whether it was playing with her kids, teaching them, or simply enjoying their company, Remy was a dedicated mother in every sense of the word. Living in the Brook Slope Terrace apartment complex in Paterson with her mother, Remy was a cherished part of her neighborhood. Though she was a private person, her kindness and warmth didn't go unnoticed by those around her. Many who knew her described her as someone who kept to herself but was always willing to lend a hand when needed. She had a natural ability to make others feel at ease and always put her children's well-being first. Remy was the type of mother who planned for her children's future with care and thoughtfulness. She dreamed of giving them everything she never had, making sure they grew up in a loving, stable environment. With the impending birth of her 3rd child, Remy's excitement was palpable. Despite the challenges she faced in her personal life, Remy remained strong and committed to building a better life for her family. After her relationship with her ex-partner, Donqua Thomas, ended, Remy focused all her energy on her children and her dreams for the future. The two had a daughter together. She had made the difficult decision to move forward, choosing to build a new life with a new partner who shared her goals of creating a loving, stable environment for her children. Little did she know, Donqua wasn't ready to let her go. After their breakup, Donqua's jealousy would escalate into something deadly. Despite trying to move forward and build a new life with a new partner, Remy's ex couldn't let go. His constant threats and harassment would prove fatal. What Remy didn't know was that her fate was tragically sealed after she made the difficult decision to separate from Donqua, which would lead him to plan a brutal attack. On Thursday, October 29, 2020, Remy left her home around noon for a routine doctor's appointment to check on her pregnancy. The day started like any other, and she had no idea that what seemed like a simple medical visit would soon lead to the most harrowing and tragic moment of her life. Pregnant with a child she had eagerly anticipated, Remy was full of hope for the future, looking forward to the joys of motherhood. By the time Remy returned to her apartment complex in the late afternoon, just after 5 p.m., the sun was beginning to dip, casting a soft golden hue over the complex. She parked her car in her usual spot, unaware that she was walking into a nightmare. But what happened next, in the few short moments that followed her return, would forever change the course of her life and would be caught on surveillance cameras, providing chilling evidence of the murder that followed. Donqua Thomas, who had been stalking Remy for weeks, had arrived at the complex long before her. Around 11:45 a.m., he pulled into the parking lot in his red Dodge Dart, his eyes scanning the area, parking at a distance, his gaze fixed on the entrance. Biding his time, for over an hour, Donqua waited in silence, his heart racing with an uneasy anticipation. Every car that passed, every pedestrian that walked by, only seemed to heighten the tension of his vigil. His obsession with Remy had been building for weeks, an unhealthy fixation that had turned violent in his mind. He knew this moment would come. When Remy's car finally appeared in the lot that afternoon, it was like a signal. Donqua's pulse quickened and his fingers tightened on the steering wheel. He watched as Remy stepped out of her vehicle, blissfully unaware of the danger lurking just yards away. As she walked toward the entrance of her apartment complex, her attention diverted. Donqua saw his opportunity. In a split second, he emerged from his hiding place and ambushed her. There was no warning, no confrontation, just the violent, sudden eruption of gunfire. Remy was shot multiple times in broad daylight. The sharp cracks of the gunshots cut through the quiet afternoon, making it clear that something horrifying was happening. Witnesses in nearby apartments heard the shots and rushed to their windows, horrified at what they saw unfolding in front of them. The assailant fled the scene almost immediately, leaving behind a trail of terror. Remy, now lying motionless on the pavement, struggled for her life. As onlookers and first responders arrived, Remy's final moments were a heartbreaking scene of desperation. Her words, faint but clear, were caught by those who were there to help her, a tragic and haunting reminder of her last fight for survival. Her cries were a desperate plea for help, but there was nothing that could be done. Emergency responders arrived at the scene just moments after the shooting, their sirens cutting through the quiet evening air. They rushed to Remy, who was bleeding out on the cold pavement, her life hanging by a thread. The horror of the situation was clear. The young mother-to-be, so full of promise just hours earlier, now lay struggling for her life. With urgency and precision, paramedics worked to stabilize her, their hands moving quickly to stem the flow of blood as they prepared to transport her to the hospital. As they administered life-saving care, her labored breaths were interrupted by one final, chilling declaration. Despite the severity of her injuries, Remy still managed to speak, saying, "It was my baby's father," she said, identifying Donqua Thomas as the person responsible for the brutal attack. Remy had made the dying declaration in front of multiple witnesses, including a public safety director, Jerry Spezzali, who had arrived on the shooting scene. Those who were with her in her final moments were stunned, yet the statement provided the authorities with a crucial piece of the puzzle. In a few short words, Remy gave the police the name of the man who had stalked, terrorized, and ultimately ended her life. It was a heartbreaking moment. She knew the truth, and even in the face of death, she was determined to make sure that the person who had taken everything from her would not be unidentified. Remy was quickly transported to St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center.
We do have to get to some just horrible breaking news out of New Jersey. We just learned, sadly, that a pregnant woman in Paterson has died. News 4's Gabi Acevedo live there in Paterson with Gabi, this information just coming in.
That's right, Natalie, just coming in. A tragedy. That pregnant woman has died, according to police, and a neighbor told us she heard 3 just before 2 p.m. That neighbor describing those as quick and consecutive, so much that she thought it may have been firecrackers, but then minutes later, police arrived on scene. This happened at 5 Christina Place in Paterson, where you can see detectives canvassing the area, collecting evidence, and asking neighbors if they saw anything or anyone leaving the premises after the. The details behind this are still scarce, but police reports say, and hear this, that the woman's baby was delivered successfully in the hospital, although we're still waiting on confirmation on that vital detail. The victim's age and identity have not been revealed, pending family notification. A tragedy nonetheless, but if that baby was delivered successfully, which we're just waiting to confirm, that's the story then, after that pregnant woman was. Reporting live from Paterson, Gabi Acevedo, News 4, New York.
Inside the emergency room, doctors fought with everything they had to save both Remy and her unborn child. The situation was dire. But then, a miraculous twist would come.
Remy delivered a healthy baby girl shortly after being shot. Her strength and will to survive were undeniable. But tragically, despite the doctor's best efforts, Remy's injuries were too severe. She succumbed to her wounds, passing away shortly after giving birth. Her baby girl was rushed to the neonatal unit, clinging to life, while the world around them seemed to crumble. A future that had once seemed full of hope and promise was now marked by unspeakable loss.
It's sad, disgusting, really. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Tamika Fry had to fight back tears as she talked about her next-door neighbor Thursday night. In her 10 years living at the Brook Sloat Terrace Co-ops, she says nothing like this has ever happened. Witnesses say they heard gunshots just after 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon. Several of them rushed to the scene as the took off. The expecting mother left lying on the ground between 2 cars after being. Fry says the woman had 2 other children who play with her own children on a regular basis. She says the woman was excited to welcome her 3rd child in the coming days.
When I saw her last week, I said, "You still ain't have that baby yet?" And she just said no, and she went inside.
Sources say this stemmed from a domestic dispute. Many neighbors said they recognized the woman from the community, but said she was quiet and mostly kept to herself. They were thankful doctors were able to deliver her child.
I just pray that both of them make it, but I'm glad that the baby did survive. Thank God. I wish she was still here, because this is terrible to leave her kids here like this.
Now we're told she did live at the co-op with her mother. We also hear tonight that police are still looking for the in this incident, and the mayor of Paterson also weighing in tonight, saying that his heart breaks for the family and that he hopes they find strength during this difficult time.
Meanwhile, the surveillance footage from the apartment complex proved to be an invaluable piece of evidence in piecing together the events of that fateful day. The footage showed Doniqua's red Dodge Dart entering the complex in the hours leading up to the shooting, his presence on the property confirming the stalking behavior that had escalated into violence. The footage captured him driving around, waiting in his car for over an hour, patiently watching for the perfect moment to strike. The footage also showed his departure from the complex immediately after the shooting, providing irrefutable proof of his involvement in the attack. As detectives started piecing together the evidence, the details of Doniqua's calculated ambush became clearer. The video footage from the parking lot, witness statements, but Remy's own identification of her attacker were damning. The police immediately began searching for Doniqua Thomas. It didn't take long for police to catch up with Doniqua. On the evening following the shooting, he turned himself in to Paterson police. Remy's mother had identified him in a police lineup, and it was soon confirmed that Doniqua had been under investigation for prior violent offenses.
A developing story. A pregnant mother is shot and killed in New Jersey right in front of one of her kids.
Neighbors remain heartbroken as they receive few answers on what happened. CBS 2's Jessica Layton reports.
This parking lot is where witnesses say a young pregnant mother collapsed after she was 3 times in the rain Thursday, losing her life just a few steps from her apartment at 3 Christina Place in Patterson's Brooksloat Terrace complex.
Just literally saw her the other day walking with the kids, and to know this now, you know, tragic.
Tamika Fry was her friend and next door neighbor. She says their kids often played together in the adjoining yard.
I see her every day in passing, you know, about to have her baby. This is just, it's sad, disgusting, really.
It's about time that we stop this period, you know, so it's really sad. It's heartbreaking.
Especially for those who witnessed it. They say her young daughter was with her and saw the whole thing.
We heard a girl scream, "Help, help, help, I need help, I've been," and I went to go help the girl.
Neighbors say while that victim was lying on the ground crying for help, she was also talking, and she said it was her boyfriend who her. Now 3 children, including the baby boy friends say was successfully delivered at the hospital, are without their mom.
I'm glad that the baby did survive. Thank God. I wish she was still here, because this is terrible to leave her kids here like this, you know. It's all just too much.
Neighbors say the gunman jumped in a red 4-door car and took off. Police have surveillance video from surrounding buildings, but no in custody yet. In Patterson, New Jersey, Jessica Layton, CBS 2 News.
In New Jersey, police have made arrest in the case of a pregnant woman in Patterson. 30-year-old Donqua Thomas is facing first-degree murder charges. According to Passaic County prosecutors, he waited for the 31-year-old victim outside her apartment for more than an hour and a half before Thursday afternoon.
In the hours following his arrest, police began to connect the dots between Donqua's behavior, the prior threats he had made to Remy, and the tragic death of the young mother. His defense attorney, Gregory April, claimed that there was no evidence linking Donqua to the shooting, including the surveillance footage, which he argued did not show his client at the scene. Despite these claims, the evidence against Donqua was overwhelming. Witnesses and Remy's mother all confirmed that he had been the one to ambush Remy, and surveillance footage had placed him at the scene. He was charged with first-degree murder and several weapons-related offenses. But the investigation would also uncover some unsettling details about Donqua's past. As he faced charges, Donqua's criminal history became relevant. He had previously been convicted on handgun charges and drug offenses in the past, which made his actions all the more dangerous. His previous offenses painted a picture of someone unafraid to break the law, willing to resort to violence to solve personal conflicts. Donqua lived with his mother on 12th Avenue, not far from where the tragic crime took place. He had a 12-year-old son with another woman, a detail that painted a picture of his personal life, one that seemed to have its own complications. Remy, on the other hand, also had a child from a previous relationship. Her relationship with Donqua had been filled with tension and escalating jealousy, and friends who spoke with Remy's family after the attack suggested that Donqua might not have been the father of Remy's newborn baby. This revelation, though not confirmed, could have been a significant motive behind his violent outburst. Jealousy, obsession, and the possibility of being replaced in Remy's life seemed to have festered in Donqua's mind, leading him to make the fatal decision that would change everything. Despite his lawyer's claims of innocence, the evidence was clear. Donqua had been involved in the shooting, and the outcome of the trial would likely lead to a conviction. In November 2023, Donqua Thomas was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of 31-year-old Remy Lee, who was 8 months pregnant at the time of her death. Judge Justine A. Nicolai of Passaic County Superior Court delivered the sentence, emphasizing the cold-blooded and premeditated nature of the crime. Prosecutors had argued that Thomas lay in wait for nearly 90 minutes before ambushing Lee outside her apartment and shooting her 4 times. During sentencing, the court highlighted the devastating impact of the crime. Lee's 2 surviving children were left without their mother, and her unborn child was never given a chance at life. Passaic County prosecutor Camelia Valdez
described the act as a calculated execution, underscoring the brutality of targeting a woman who was about to give birth. The life without parole sentence ensures that Thomas will spend the rest of his life behind bars, reflecting the gravity of the offense and the justice system's determination to protect victims of domestic violence. The murder of Remy Lee sent shivers through the tight-knit community of Paterson. Neighbors and friends mourned the loss of the young mother who had so much to live for. Many remembered Remy as a quiet, loving person who was excited to welcome her third child. For those who knew Remy, her death was more than just a tragedy. It was a harsh reminder of the dangers of domestic violence and the devastating impact it can have on entire communities. The murder of Remy Lee leaves many unanswered questions. Could this tragedy have been prevented? What more could have been done to protect Remy from the escalating violence in her relationship with Donkoa Thomas? The situation calls for action. We need to continue advocating for survivors of domestic violence, providing resources and support for those at risk, and pushing for stronger laws to protect those who are vulnerable. We must create safer environments where individuals, especially women, can live without fear of violence. As we mourn the loss of Remy, we must also fight for justice and a world where domestic violence no longer claims innocent lives. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, please reach out to the proper authorities, shelters, and support groups. You are not alone. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.